I'd like to welcome you to the cyber hacking course that we're putting on. The city of Friendswood, we're doing this. We are part of the IT department. So we want to share some information with you in how to protect yourself from the cyber hunter. The cyber hunter is somebody trying to do something malicious against you. And we'll go over a lot of the definitions, different terminologies that are out there, different kind of hackers, activists, stuff like that, as well as what cybersecurity is. It's not just a business need that we're putting forward in our city to help protect it as best as possible, but it's also a need for you at home. The damage that somebody can do to you financially is just enormous amount of money. So with that, I'd like to do an introduction of ourselves. My name is James O'Brien. I'm the IT director for the city of Friendswood, as Deputy Director of Administrative Services. And with us we have Jose Castelan, which is our cybersecurity and compliance analyst.
So we'd like to start this presentation off by showing you a small little video. And we'd like to see if this is something you would do in your own home.
High temperatures in the 90s and triple digits, overnight lows mostly in the 70s and low 80s. And again, these storms tend to die off as you get to the late evening hours. They will redevelop again tomorrow afternoon, bring us some rainfall in some areas. Right now we're calling dry in Vegas. 75.
Thanks, hon.
Sure, babe.
Don't forget to roll down all the car windows.
Yep.
So this is something we would definitely not do, when we're going to bed and, preparing to take a good night's sleep. So, this is something we should also be aware of with our home networks. We should not leave open doors, open ports. So it's a good illustration just to reference, hackers out there are looking for these type of open doors to get in.
So how does a wiring network mess like this, which is something that just puts fear into IT guy, how does that turn into a cybersecurity threat? What is the biggest threat to cybersecurity? And not to sound ugly or rude, but it's you. And the reason is that protecting your personal information is your responsibility. It's taking ownership and saying, I'm going to put in place what I need to protect myself. You do the same thing just as that couple did with putting an alarm on their house, alarm on a car, all those kind of devices that are there to help protect you. Same thing with your home and your security of that house. So on our agenda, just briefly go over with you, we're going to talk about what is cybersecurity, why does it matter to you, various security threats, techniques, outcomes that could be expected, tips, and then we'll follow up with any questions at the end.
So what is cybersecurity? And that's a very broad question, which we will try to answer with an illustration. This illustration shows the 3 pillars of cybersecurity. So in order to maintain your online identity safe, you want to maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what happens if any of these 3 pillars are compromised? Well, you'll end up with disclosure. So one example of this being Target recently on the news. They had a breach where they lost a large quantity of credit card numbers. So when that happens, the confidentiality of them protecting your information was gone. And that, with bringing that one pillar down, it affects all 3 of them. Just because once that is done, your personal information is altered. These hackers can pull out other accounts with that information, can purchase things. They can ruin your financial credit where destruction comes through. So these 3 pillars are the fundamental basics of cybersecurity.
So as a little bit of a cartoon, a little bit of funny for us in the IT world, you can see all the appliances we put in place, all these secure devices that we put in place and measures that we take with hardware and software to help protect us. The thing that we have no control over on a daily basis is the human error on the right side of the ring. If you get an email, you're anxious, you think you ordered something and you didn't, and all of a sudden you click that button to check what email that FedEx or UPS is shipping you something, it's not what you ordered. So this just just a little quick snippet of some IT humor for you, but it is the struggle that we do. So the thing that we can control on the human error side is education. So what does this mean to you as a home? What are your security concerns with a smart home? So many things have adapted and changed over a short amount of time. It went from PCs and laptops and tablets. Now you got your game systems that are online. You got firewalls that are there to protect if properly set up. The Wi-Fi that's within your house to control all your non-connected devices. And you get into the smart home devices. And that gets into your thermostat, your AC, heat, your various appliances. They have smart refrigerators, smart washer and dryer. They have smart crock pots that you can control from your phone. Those things are going to be the stuff that attackers are going to look for, and they don't see there's any kind of security to it. They're going to go use it for malicious attempts. Some of the other stuff that's well known, the Alexa devices as your home assistants, wireless door locks. So now you can come up, unlock with your phone, you can unlock your front door, or you could wave it close by and it'll read it and it'll allow you to come in. Security cameras, baby monitors are one of the biggest things overlooked. No, I've heard it in the news before of an unsecured baby monitor that the person then heard the baby's name and then started talking to the baby through the monitor. And then you have your lighting systems that are also as well as some of the smart home devices. So in a small business aspect, what are some of the security concerns? I highlighted a few of them here just to kind of highlight some of the stuff that's going to be bigger to myself that I would see as well as a small business to medium business. And that's user credentials, making sure that you have structured passwords that are not easy to hack. As we move forward, we'll show you later that the 8-character password is something that's going to be going away sometime soon. And they're going to be moving to something of the nature of 25 characters. But the thing is, you don't have to have such a complex numbers and all that stuff. You can make short sentences that you remember, but it's the mathematical probability to figure out 25 characters compared to 8 characters. We'll show you the number. It'll blow your mind of how much difference there is. The information collected on devices by those smart homes, that information, if not properly secured, can provide all kind of different goodies to a hacker. Again, with the log information, if you have any kind of logging that's going through that system, they could potentially get into that. They would see usernames, passwords, content that may be passing through. And then video feed, a surveillance system. Again, kind of like the baby monitor. If it's unsecured, somebody else could be watching you.
So security threats. What are these security threats and how do they affect us? Well, security threats can come in different forms. And here, going off of the list we provided, nation states such as, for example, Russia, hacking into, with political agendas, these past elections. Terrorists wanting to exploit to get funding for their organization. We have cyber criminals who are sending out phishing emails, trying to get financial gain. The main motive behind them is money. Hacktivists, which react to social events, different groups and users that can cause harm. And like James was saying, malicious insiders are those employees who already have credentials that are inside of your organization. If they're angry that they didn't get a promotion or they didn't get a raise, they can say, hey, let me delete this entire file server and cause havoc to an organization. So when we think about a hacker, we get an idea in our heads of it's somebody that is punching down keys down in the basement, and that's all they're doing. In reality, in today's age, a hacker can look like any one of us. They can be young, they can be old, they can be motivated by many different reasons. So it's not as easy to identify, there's a guy in the library with the hoodie on. That's the guy that's hacking us. So it's not simple to track, who is behind these malicious attacks.
So one of the stories I want to bring to light is the city of Longview. I was at a conference a couple years ago, and they talked about this with their cybersecurity measures they took within the city. The police department experienced a horrendous event that a young lady, I believe around the age of 17, came into the police department wielding a knife. They called for an officer. He responded. They scuffled, didn't get the knife away from her, and he pulled back. A second officer came out. Second officer, they all got in another altercation. They still didn't control the young lady. A third officer showed up. She saw the knife come up and she shot the young lady. Again, that's the story that I've been given from the city of Longview, and I greatly appreciate them sharing this event with us because it's definitely a hard thing to go through. But what came of this was a group that tried to cause harm. And one of those hacktivist groups is the group called Anonymous. So what they did is, I edited the video because I didn't want to take the whole time to show you the whole thing, but just the gist of it. It came out that when they called the cybersecurity guy for the city of Longview, he showed up. Police escorted him out of the parking lot to his office and sat with him the entire time. And he finally was like, "Why are you sitting here?" And he said, "Well, there was a threat." And they considered threats as physical attempts of harm, where this was simply just a cyber attack of harm.
Greetings world, we are Anonymous. It has been brought to our attention that the lethal force of firearms by police is being used on our children in America. We will no longer stand for this. In Longview, Texas, Christiana Cognard was shot and killed on January 22nd by police for pulling a knife and threatening officers.
So it went on that they were going to do harm to the city of Longview. The harm that they did was try to, with their technology, with their resources, and it gets into some of those smart home devices, IoT type information, or various IoT items that come about, that they were using that to do what's called a DDoS attack. And it's basically all this flooding of traffic saying, just like when you go to a website, a request is sent to that website to give information that comes back. They had so many responses going, or requests going to the system to take it down. So their attempt was to take down the city of Longview's website. It was third-party managed, so the city actually didn't have it on their physical site. It was what you call in the cloud. They ended up getting fired by that vendor, the city did, because of the attack that happened due to this event. So just in retrospect, it's what can happen in a small business as well with something of event. Hopefully nothing that bad where somebody's shot and killed, but somebody could want to do harm to that business and or your home if it was such an event they felt the need to and the drive for it. So touching on some social media threats, there is endless, and I take that number of 30 million malicious posts in with a grain of salt. How valuable that is, it's hard to wrap your head around how much of that is coming out, that people are putting out, hate the term fake news, but they're putting out that kind of stuff to wreak havoc and or cause you to click on something, then that story seems like something you want to read, and it's a illegitimate website that's going to do malicious harm to your device then. So be cautious, even with current events, don't always take it that you want to click on it. If you really want to think of looking into something that you've read, you saw pop up on Facebook or whatever, social media, go to a source that's reputable. Don't just rely on that pop-up ad being what's going to help you or give you your information.
So let's talk about techniques. How do hackers, get inside your systems? How do they know, what weaknesses they can target and exploit? Well, hackers, just like any of us in our workplace, have tools. They have tools that help them identify these weaknesses. Like we were watching in that previous video, that couple that left all those open doors is something that a hacker would look for. This tool essentially does that for them. It's called a port scanner. This essentially goes through and targets their internet address. So just like we have home addresses at home, your home internet has an internet address. When they scan your internet address, they're looking for these open ports. And if any of these ports are open, then it's an open door for them to get in. And we'll get into it a little bit further on how to secure your home network and how to avoid leaving an open door for these hackers. Malware comes in different types of flavors. Comes in the form of a virus, Trojan horse, a worm, spyware that when installed on your computer will save every single keystroke you're entering. So if you're browsing the internet going to your banking website, if this type of malware is installed, it's capturing all that information and sending it out to a remote computer for them to exploit. We have ransomware, which has been really popular and has been in the news lately, of it just taking complete control of businesses. It compromises all their data, and they expect large amounts of money from you to give you that information back. And it's not a guarantee whether you'll get that information back or not. Here we have a screenshot of one of these types of exploits. As you can see, we have the FBI logo right here. So they try to make it as official as possible so that you think that this is the real deal. And of course, they're demanding that you pay a fine of $200 for, them to release your computer. And if you take a step back and think about it, if the FBI realizes something bad is going on to your computer, they're not going to show a pop-up on there. They're not going to shoot you a call and say, hey, we see that, there's bad stuff on your computer, that you've been accessing sensitive data, government data. They're going to show up at your door. So, this is a good example. So, to look for things like this so you don't fall a victim. Like we were talking earlier, ransomware essentially encrypts all of your data and holds it for ransom. This is a screenshot from a computer that essentially had all of its data compromised. If it was my machine, I'd be looking at losing pictures, tax returns, so really valuable information, pictures or memories you can't get back. So they use this for you to want to pay that ransom. They give you, as you can see here, a deadline. So you have this amount of time before all your information is gone. They demand $300 from you, and like I said, there's no guarantee you're getting this information back. So we'll cover a little bit further how you can protect yourself from this as well.
Just kind of highlight on the terminology if you're not familiar with being encrypted. What it is basically somebody took the keys out of your door and put their own keys to it. So you have no access. So they're putting password protected criteria on your files, which keeps you locked out.
All right, so here we have an iPhone screenshot. And I'm gonna give you guys a quick moment to analyze these two pictures and see if you can identify which one of the two is fake.
And I can tell you one of these was developed by a hacker to mimic the same screen.
Yeah, they're
Both
both
of them.
really identical. James and I actually stood and stared at it for a couple minutes when we first saw this, and
The only thing different is the battery.
yeah,
Right. The battery, there's a slight difference at the gray bar at the very top. The word loading
there's a bar here.
is a slightly bolder on the right-hand side.
This is a really tough one, and the only reason we know is because we read the documentation behind this, and if I'm correct, James, it was number 2 that was fake.
Number 2 is fake.
Yes.
The way that this relates back to what we're trying to inform you on is just because you get a pop-up, don't enter your credentials. He mimicked the iTunes store pop-up to where, and even side by side, you can't tell the difference. So the goal of this is to say, don't just put in your credentials into that. If you have a question or you're trying to make a purchase, go straight to the application, go into your settings, and put your credentials in there. Don't let a pop-up steer where you're going. It's the same thing as with some of the phishing emails. Just because you get an email that says, this is from your bank, it's very urgent, click here, I need your information, go straight to the bank's website, call the bank. So it plays in the same aspect of those two things. Don't just enter your credentials, be cautious about it. So the reason it's fake is he was trying to cause malicious harm. He wanted you to enter your password because he spoofed the email, so he knows your email address already, so all he needs is your password. So the reason that he would create it is to...
The text-wise, everything is same.
Yeah, that's how good he is. It's like saying somebody photoshopping currency, and if you can tell the difference, they're not very good at it. But if they print money and you can't see the difference, then they're really good at what they're doing, which is the same thing this hacker is. That's where we're saying you don't, just because the pop-up comes up, you don't want to put in your password there. Our suggestion would be go straight to that application or to the settings within the phone. Whatever you're trying to actually go to, go there. Don't let the pop-up steer you into putting your password there.
And we can cover more in depth towards the end, any questions that you may have. So moving on, we often wonder, what does a hacker screen look like? In movies, they project it as, a black screen with a bunch of text. And in reality, sometimes it's going to look like that. Here, we have password cracking software, which is run through command prompt. In this screenshot, what is running is a brute force attack. It's multiple attempts at the same system with generic usernames and credentials. So when you leave the default username and password on your home network, on the new smart device you bought, this is what they're targeting. They're targeting and hoping that you did that. And after just 72 attempts, we can see that they found the 2 username and password combinations that allows them access. So when you leave those default credentials, it really raises the risk level that you're at of being hacked.
So just to kind of go over some of the social engineering is the biggest way that people are being hacked nowadays. It's basically going up to you and asking you questions, asking you the right questions, and asking you questions that you're not intending to answer. If you were asked, how old are you? You may say it, or you may not say it, but they'll say, what year were you born? And that's some of the kind of mind tricks that these people use to do this. As human nature, we want to share our information. We want to tell our story. Not telling you not to share your story, but be cautious of what you share, how you share it, who you share it with. So I'd like to show you just a quick video. Jimmy Kimmel actually did a street study, we'll call it, of asking people what their password is.
So back to this this hack, this Equifax hack. I mentioned earlier, They may have compromised the information of 143 million Americans, which is a lot of Americans. So in light of this, as a service to the public, we've actually done this before, and it's very effective. We asked people who are passing by our theater today what password they use to protect their personal information. And pay attention, please, because there are a lot of important tips to be shared here.
We are talking to people about the cybersecurity breach at Equifax, and in light of that, we're asking people how secure their internet passwords are. What do you use for an internet password?
You know, I usually stick to my last name. That's probably not the best thing to do, but I usually stick to my last name, a few digits, maybe like a hashtag or something, or...
How do you spell your last name?
Walker.
Walker?
Yeah.
W-A-L-K-E-R?
Yeah.
And then just a few numbers?
Yeah, I probably should have told you that.
And then a hashtag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The numbers, like, what do you use, like your birthday or something, your area code?
Yeah, usually like my birthday.
How old are you?
21.
21? What day are you born?
November. No, the day, sorry, the 29th.
29th of November?
Yeah.
So Walker, 11/29/95.
Woo! I probably shouldn't say that, but.
That's okay.
Yeah.
How strong is your internet password?
Strong.
What sort of things do you use?
Capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers, characters, everything.
What's a current password you're using?
I don't really want to tell the current password that I'm using, to be honest.
You think I'm a hacker?
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, like 63XJ9 hat symbol, at symbol, basically. All characters, pretty random assortment, and I just try to memorize.
Use that one?
Yes.
Thank you. What is your internet password that you use for your email?
In and Out 2017.
That was easy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
My internet password is capital W @TER capital B 0 NG waterbong.
Yeah, we probably got that.
My internet password is okay?
Yeah.
Mila for what's MILA64.
Well, that's nice. Now Americans can hack into a Russian website. No, that'll be fun. Hello, sir. What is your name?
Jerry Reed,
Jerry, where are you from?
Whittier, California.
What do you do out there besides scare school children? How strong is your internet password?
I'd say pretty strong.
Yeah. What sort of things do you use for it?
You know, things that I like.
What sorts of things do you like?
Maybe a dog, an animal, a place I've been, someone I know.
So like Rover Mental Ward.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, well, that's... Jerry, don't worry. Don't worry at all. Your secret is very safe with us, okay?
Well, thank you.
Okay, you just keep this between all of us.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, you're welcome, Jerry.
So the next video I'm going to show you, give you a little bit of background on this. There is bad hackers, then there's ethical hackers. There's companies that have come about and they go out, other companies hire them to say, hack our system, show us where we're vulnerable at. So this is a video that a ethical hacker was hired, and it shows how easily he hacked into a company.
What do you think of when I say the word hacker? Some creepy dude in a basement? Well, that's a misconception. What if I told you there's a class of hackers who don't just have social skills, they have more social intelligence than anyone you'll ever meet? David Kennedy is one of them. He's what's known as a social engineer, or a people hacker. His craft is to dupe you into doing things and sharing information you probably shouldn't.
Can I just get your credit card number?
Some use it for illegal activity. In David's case, companies pay him to find out if employees are leaving the company vulnerable. He and his team show us how it's done. Step 1, spoof his number so it looks like he's calling from inside the company, and then call tech support.
Hello, you there? Hello?
Hi, this is Ken. How may I help you?
I was wondering if you can take a look at a website I'm trying to get to. It's for a big customer thing I'm working on for Monday, and I can't seem to get to the website from my computer.
Sure. What's the website? I'll see if I can get through it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the help. I mean, it could be a stupid thing. I'm really stuck with computers, but so it's www.survey. That's SURVEY -pro.com.
Yeah, I got a prompt to open. I just clicked open, and I'm at the site now.
Here's what the IT guy doesn't realize. By clicking that link, he's just given David full access to his computer.
Whoa, okay, that's weird. I just hit it and it works. It seems like it's working fine now. Awesome. I don't know what you did, man, but I really appreciate the help.
Hey, no problem. That was easy.
That was it?
We're on his computer right now.
You were able to take over this guy's computer within, I would say, like, under 2 minutes.
Under 2 minutes, yeah. Under 2 minutes, took over his entire computer, and think of it as not just his computer, but it's pretty much a downfall of the entire company.
In this case, the company was paying David to hack them and see if their employees would fall for it. They did. To show you this demo, we agreed not to use the company's name. Kennedy hacks to protect. He's part of a growing number of hackers using this skill for good. Josh Corman's one of them too. He started a group to help bridge the gap between hackers and big companies.
Hacking is a form of power. Not surprisingly, as you walked into my house and saw all the Spider-Man stuff, I'm a big fan of the Stan Lee line of with great power comes great responsibility. We're coming to a point where the outside world, with a breach a week, a breach a day, affecting people's personal lives and national security, we got to grow up a bit, and we need to be very deliberate about how we use that power.
Corman formed the group after his mom passed away.
She was my science teacher. She kind of taught me that darkness is the absence of light, cold is the absence of heat. You know, if you see something missing in the world, maybe it's our job to put it there. I think the world's going to be whatever we want it to be and whatever we make it. There are very, very bad people, which means it falls to the good people to try to fight it.
You feel like you have a very personal responsibility.
We have so much potential to shape our culture, our values, our safety. If not us, then who?
So they agreed not to use company name. This goes into, I even receive calls from Microsoft support or my tech desk support that there's a security issue on my computer and that I need to answer these questions and they can get to my computer. Same kind of situation, but their intent was harm. So luckily I don't listen to them and I politely hang up on them most of the time. Well, I have fun with them for a little while and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Yeah, so. The next video that I'm going to show you is, it's about cell phone spoofing, how they're using that. There's all kind of technology to spoof your phone number. Security in that, I haven't dived into a whole lot, to be honest, so preventing it is something that I definitely want to still look into. IT's ever changing, ever evolving, so we have to keep up on our toes quite a bit. But this one, it shows at an ethical hacker convention that the reporter was asked a ethical hacker to spoof his cell phone, and well, not spoof his cell phone, but to hack one of his accounts. So it shows how she did that.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
at gmail.com.
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yeah.
So off those two videos, just to show you, hackers are not what you saw in that one video of 1970s picking at an old keyboard. Here you have a young lady, the other one you have a middle-aged gentleman. They're doing it luckily for the good, to show what can happen. But if they were in the other mindset, they would be doing mischievous stuff with it. But to go back on the video, the reason she got that connection with the person, she had the baby crying, she made an emotional connection to that person on the phone and said, we're about to apply for a loan. We need this because we're about to apply for a loan. How can you help me? She made an emotional connection with the support on the phone and got in right there.
So telephone spoofing is, something that doesn't require a computer to hack and compromise your information. So when, you're receiving a call from the IRS asking you, to provide your credit card information because there's a few dollars missing from your tax return, or that tech support call that, was just out there looking at your computer and noticed that you have malware. He just needs $15 to cover his support, and then he can clean your computer up. So, these types of calls and stuff don't require a computer for them to steal your information. So, tips, don't give out any of your information by phone, unless you're specifically calling the AT&T company to change, your checking account or your credit card number. If somebody's calling you, do not give out any information. Don't send it by email either. If somebody needs that information that badly, they will reach out to you. Well, not necessarily reach out to you, but you'll get documentation by mail. Banks will often send you mail saying, hey, certain account changes happen, and they don't request you to provide any further information. Oftentimes, we go to training events, we go to school meetings, and they are providing free flash drives for you. They're, giving you a CD that has the PowerPoint that, we're presenting. But how do you know what's actually on that flash drive before you plug it into your computer? James, goes to numerous conferences throughout the year, and people offer him flash drives left and right. Hey, I'm a vendor. This is my new computer software. Try it out. It's on a flash drive. And James, can you elaborate on what you do whenever they offer you free flash drives?
I'll either let them know I do not accept them or throw it away as soon as I walk away. If it's mixed in some kind of goodie bag of different bubble gum or something that they're giving away, I do not use them. I do not care to have them. Sound like Sam I am on that, but it's one of those things. I don't trust it because I don't know where it came from. If I ordered it, I know what I'm expecting. But you can see here Dilbert talking to his boss about it. A free USB drive on the ground is not a free USB drive. What kind of cost could it have? One of the things that I learned in economics was there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's a cost to something, so that there's a hidden cost to this supposedly free USB drive.
In this following slide, we can see, the consequences of what happens if you do plug in that flash drive that you saw and it said payroll on it. You know, hackers got into your network and the rest of your team's wondering, you know, how'd they get in? Well, could be that flash drive you plugged in, or could it be that your password's password? So, you know, best practices, as we're going to cover in a little bit, are going to be to not pick up any free stuff and plug it into your computer. Don't install programs that are free on the internet, and you know, change your password on a regular basis. And we'll cover some tips on what are some best practices for your passwords. So phishing emails, some statistics from 2017, so last year. 23% of people that receive phishing emails opened them. 11% of those actually opened the attachments to it. So from when an email attack, a phishing campaign's sent out, it takes a mere minute and a half for somebody to fall victim to their plot. So we're going to look at some emails to show you what to look for so you don't fall victim to this. In this top example, we have an email from Facebook. These hackers often are from overseas. They could be here, and they're not perfect. There could be spelling errors. So in this top example, we can see the first red flag. They ask you to please follow the link below and misspelled below. Another red flag is, you know, they're demanding you, they're asking, you know, use our link, otherwise your account's going to be permanently blocked. So you value your Facebook connections, you know, those are your friends. You want to upload those vacation pictures, and you don't want that to close. So like James was saying, that connection to that application, to that account is going to, you know, intrigue you and be like, no, you know, I want to keep my account, let me click it. So look for these things. Facebook's not going to send you something, an email asking you to confirm your account. If you're really intrigued, log into your account, go into the settings, change your password, look if there are any alerts, but do it from, do it yourself, don't use the links. In this bottom example, we have a Xerox, which is a scanner, and the scanner emailed a document to this user. Well, the scanner provided pretty generic information, so it's just confidential and invoice, so it doesn't elaborate more if it's from within the organization, what it is from. So one way to identify that this is not a real email is at the end we can see that the email address is at so-and-so.uk. Well, UK is the domain for the United Kingdom. So there's no way, you know, Friendswood has a scanner in the United Kingdom sending us scans. So, you know, this is a big red flag. And whenever you see emails or websites that are coming from other countries, you know, that's a red flag. So the IRS scams, I know I've gotten calls from them by phone, but those hackers are now reaching out to you by email. They, you know, like I was saying earlier, they're saying, oh, there's an issue with your tax, let's figure it out. Well, funny thing, the IRS actually will only contact you by mail. So email is a red flag, phone calls are a red flag from the IRS. And going a little bit even further, if we look at who the sender is up here, we see that it's not anything related to the IRS. Government websites will end usually in .gov. So if this doesn't show from irs.gov, another red flag. Another phishing campaign that was really popular is sending you DocuSign documents for you to sign and review. These have replaced paper in some situations. Whenever I purchased my home, my realtor sent me DocuSign documents. I was expecting them from her, from her email address. So whenever I was receiving them, I was still checking them. Was it coming from my realtor's email address? Was the document elaborating? She would often add details. Hey, this is for financing. Sign the papers and send it back to me. So here we have no description. And then if you were to hover over the link for the document, you see that this is actually pointing, and we have it supersized up here, to a web domain that is not anything related to DocuSign. So a lot of times with this type of scam, they'll have you go in and they'll ask you, okay, log in with your account so that you can access the document. Well, once you punch in those credentials, your online identity is compromised. So those are some things to look out for. Make sure you're expecting it. So anytime I go online, I question what's going on. When I was going at school, another example is, or even here at work, we share documents on a daily basis. That doesn't necessarily mean they're malicious all the time, but if I'm not expecting a document from James and it's coming from an email address I've never recognized, and it says, hey, James shared a document, first thing I'll do is I'll call James. Hey, James, did you by any chance share this document with me on accident, or is there a project that you want me to complete with it? And he'll either confirm, yes, sorry I didn't give you a heads up, but there's a project that needs your attention, or no, that wasn't me. So with these screenshots here, we have popular platforms like Google, OneDrive, but they look exactly like they would on a normal website. But again, once we look and identify the URL, we see that here it doesn't say Google at all. We also have .br, which is a country not from here.
It's going to be Brazil, I believe. So, yeah. So those are just some of those identifying markers to say something's not right.
So those are some red flags to be aware of. Invoices are popular to target businesses, sometimes even individuals. If you have plumbing work done or any type of maintenance work, oftentimes, some companies won't send you mail anymore. They'll send you invoices electronically. But here we'll see a red flag showing that this email address is sending on behalf of APT Engineering. We've never done business with APT Engineering, so that's 2 red flags. Again, it's very generic email. It makes you want to be intrigued. So, why am I being billed $1,000? So if you haven't gotten any work done, you're not expecting an invoice, don't click on it. If they're really, trying to collect on previous work done, they'll come, reach out, they'll mail you an invoice, or you can call and see, hey, what work was actually being done that I'm being charged for. With these phishing emails, branding often plays a big part, as well as events that are going on in the area. So this is from Longview. The city was going through a local election, and if you take a quick look at it, you'll see that the email was sent by the HR department in Longview. But this is where we need to run our analysis on these emails, check the sender, and question, why is it being sent to me? In this case, you can think, okay, well, we're going through election. I work for Longview, so this might be a real email. But as we get it back up there, we'll see in a highlighted text box shortly that the email address that's being sent from is actually not from inside of the organization. So, as a local government, their email address ends in .gov, and the sender from this email is sending it from Longview, Texas at hr-resources.org. So it's an external email, and it's not from necessarily inside. So once if this employee had opened this attachment, who knows what could have happened. They could have been on the news for other things, such as ransomware taking over their entire system and end up paying and costing taxpayers a lot of money.
So going into some more of the phishing, I don't recommend this for anybody, but it is pretty comical that somebody took it to the extent that this person here in this video does. He shows how he basically played with one of the hackers and, supposedly the gold that we're going to send you and all that. So just a little bit of entertainment for you.
I'm James Veach. I get a ton of scam emails, but instead of deleting them, I decided to hit reply. Today, I had a weird conversation with a guy called Solomon Adonka about some gold. Here's what happened. Hello, James Veach. I have an interesting business proposal I want to share with you, Solomon. I was like, Solomon, your email intrigues me. Go on, go on. He said, Dear James Veach, we shall be shipping gold to you. You will earn 10% of any gold you distribute. So I knew I was in safe hands. I said, how much is it worth? He said, we will start with a smaller quantity. I was like, ah. And then he said, of 25 kilograms, the worth should be about $2.5 million. I said, look, Solomon, if we're going to do it, let's go big. I can handle it. How much gold do you have? He said, it's not a matter of how much gold I have. What matters is your capability of handling. We could start with 50 kilograms as a trial shipment. I said 50 kilograms? There's no point doing this at all unless we're shipping at least a metric ton. He said, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a hedge fund executive bank manager. This isn't the first time I ship bullion, my friend. No. I was like, now look, where are you based? I don't know about you, but I think if we're going via the postal service, it ought to be signed for. I mean, that's a lot of gold. He said, it will not be easy to convince my company to do a large quantity shipment. I said, Solomon, I am completely with you on this one. I am putting together a visual for you to take into the board meeting. Hold tight. I said, Solomon, attach this email. You'll find a helpful chart. I've had one of my assistants run the numbers. I'm no statistician, but I think there's definitely something going on. I've discovered an undeniable correlation. We need to be shipping as much gold as possible. He said, I will be so much happy if the deal goes well, because I'm going to get a very good commission as well. And I said, that's amazing. What are you going to spend your cut on? And he said, on real estate. What about you? I said, one word, hummus. It's going places. I was at the grocery store the other day and there are like 30 different varieties. Also, you can cut up carrots. I'm not going to get them. Have you ever done that, Solomon? He said, I have to go to bed now. Till tomorrow, have sweet dreams. I said, bonsoir, my golden nugget, bonsoir. I said, Solomon, I'm concerned about security. When we email each other, we need to use a code. And he agreed. And so I said, that's amazing. I said, Solomon, I spent all night coming up with this code. We need to use it in all further correspondence. Lawyer, gummy bear. Bank, cream egg. Legal, fizzy cola bottles. Claim peanut M&Ms, documents, jelly beans, Western Union. A giant gummy lizard. Please call me Kit Kat and all further correspondence. I didn't receive an email back from him, so I was like, I've gone too far. I said, Solomon, is the deal still on? Kit Kat. He did reply and he said, the business is on and I'm trying to raise the balance for blah, 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 blah. I said, dude, you have to use the code. What followed is the greatest email I've ever received. The business is on, and I'm trying to raise the balance for the gummy bear so he can submit all the needed fizzy cola bottle jelly beans to the cream egg for the peanut M&Ms process to start. Send £1,500 via a giant gummy lizard.
Some good humor, but like I said, I don't suggest it so you don't get caught up in some kind of scandal of some stuff. And this was an NBC News report, and they were asking, what's more valuable, your money that's in your bank or your data? Your data is, because I can continually take that. Once I take all the money from your bank, it's gone. But if I got your data, I can continually get that information and keep hitting it.
We'll talk about outcomes. What type of impact does cybercrime have? Well, in 2015, the cybercrime cost about $3 trillion. And in 2021, it's expected to reach 6 trillion. So those aren't no small numbers. Those are massive amounts of money, and you may wonder, well, how does a cybercrime reach that amount? Well, when you think about a business, if a business is affected by ransomware, all the data that the business uses to charge customers for invoices, to pay employees, for employees to work on computers, all of that is halted. There's no way you can maintain regular business operations if you can't use your computers. One example of just how damaging this can be was to a local city in Canada. This city, unfortunately, was compromised. Their servers, their workstations, basically everything was encrypted. So without that key to access that data, there was no way they were going to have a productive workday. This happened in July, where the virus attack basically took control of their entire system. It's a small city, and as taxpayers, we're the ones who are in the end affected by this, because this takes away from other resources, like, for example, this presentation, because we're paid here, or other resources that the city can provide, such as
street and bridge repairs, different city parks, facilities, stuff like that. Kind of highlighting on this city is only a population of 20,000. So that's half of what Friendswood is. Their upfront initial cost that they've experienced since July is around $250,000. So $250,000 out of what you would call Friendswood's budget would be a huge impact for this kind of event. It's not planned for, it's not roads, okay, we expect it, we're planning to fix stuff. This abruptly disrupted everything. And to reiterate, they're also expecting another $50,000 to $60,000 this current fiscal year on top of the $250,000 they've already spent.
So the downtime that the city experienced once their systems were compromised, and to the time that they got some computers up to do at least minimal functions, was 7 weeks. So 7 weeks without being able to process payments, process invoices, that impacts a business. The expenditures that happen due to this event, basically the ransomware, the hackers demanded payment. The city did negotiate some of these costs, but when you add on top security consultants, because a lot of the times just one person, one expert is unable to, examine all the data that was affected. You need a team. So that's an added resource to the city. Physical security vendors, you need to make sure that the work environment is going to be secure. You're not going to be vulnerable to other attacks. Getting equipment up to date, it's not explained whether or not this was due to outdated equipment, but it could have been due to patches not being installed. So new updated equipment, that adds on to the cost. And employee overtime. Nobody knows the system better here at Friendswood than internal employees. So we have to work alongside with other experts in case an event like this did happen. And 7 weeks of that adds up. So if we go down to a breakdown of what these costs average, we can see that the initial demand that the hackers had was 11 Bitcoins. And if you're unfamiliar what the Bitcoin is, it's cyber currency. It's virtual currency. So as much as it's not real, hackers this has value to them because they're able to exchange it for other goods in the black market. One Bitcoin, is valued at roughly $15,000. So at this time, 11 Bitcoins was about $144,000. And for a city of that population, that's a big amount to have to fork out to get the systems back. So with the IT determining, okay, we can restore some of our systems if we recover a few of our servers and not pay the full ransomware amount. They negotiated down to, in the end, 3 Bitcoins, which was a total of $34,000. So $34,000, is a large sum to pay for something that is already yours. And these hackers are leveraging it because they know you need it. That was all. So like James was saying, the total amount was something close to $250,000 with ongoing cost in 2019, estimated to be an additional $50,000 to $60,000. And so with that said, it just puts everything in perspective of how damaging a cyber attack can be. So things you'll want to protect at home to protect yourself from something like this happening is with Internet of Things is a new term that's floating around. This is, to give an example, it's like Alexa. It's like your Nest AC system at your home that's smart. These smart devices basically can be hacked. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to use some best practices to protect your home network and your devices. And to cover a little bit on best practices for social media, when you set up an account with Facebook, you have the option to use two-factor authentication. You also have this option with your banks where something other than just your passwords require. Whenever I log into my bank accounts, I also get a text message with a temporary passcode so that I can use both at the same time to log in. So with social media, this can have a great effect on your personal life as well. If somebody posts the wrong thing on your account, you can lose friends, you can lose family just because of a malicious post. Never share your passwords with anybody on social media. If you have a vendor that's saying, hey, I have your vacation pictures, I need to upload them to your Facebook account, I just need your password. Ask for those pictures to be printed, or get them a different way other than having them have direct access to your social media, Facebook, Instagram. Practice safe password techniques. So change your password often. The recommended 90 days. If you want to do it more often, then that's just added security to protect yourself. And when on social media, a lot of times we're presented with ads, links to a new product that's coming out. Be very careful with this. Again, they're using this to bait you. So if you're clicking on this new product that's going to save your home tons of electricity, then chances are it might not be real. The savings aren't there. They're just using something that's attractive to you. Again, touching on the ads, when browsing the web, sometimes our home pages are loaded with these click holes. They have really interesting articles. So-and-so divorced, the celebrity. Justin Bieber got a new car. So, they make it attractive for you to click and find out more information. Don't click on these. If you're really interested about the article, go to your normal news media, see if they have it on there. Otherwise, it's probably fake news. Other types of ads that could be malicious are drive-by ads. These ads load automatically when you visit a page, and sometimes they can carry malicious scripts. that when you load that web page are going to execute code that, you know, could harm your computer, can harm your online identity. So if, you know, you're searching for stuff that you shouldn't be or are on a part of the internet, you know, that's risky, you know, these are some of the risks you may face. I don't know if you want to add on to anything for these type of ads.
Same thing like in a Google search. A lot of times if you Google search red dress, you may get a couple of the first lines that say ad next to it. I personally, and I preach it, and like I said, I do it myself. I don't use those because as good as Google could be, I go to what I actually want, not into anything that's marked ad. Because if it's marked ad, I'm thinking of it the same way I'm thinking of this.
So we come across free programs online all the time. Sometimes we want to save a video off of YouTube to show our friends and family. Sometimes we want to edit a song, cut out a part, and we look online for free programs that can help us do these tasks. Well, free programs aren't necessarily always good. These programs are provided to you for free due to them being bundled with other software that could be malicious. So just because it says free and it's something you're looking for, you know, be very careful when you're installing and downloading these programs. It's just like inviting a stranger into your home that you don't know, but they're saying they offer free dishwashing. You know, just because that's something that you're looking for that can make your life easier, doesn't mean that stranger is not going to come in and steal your TV once you're asleep. So with malware, there are some tips that you can look to see, you know, is your computer compromised? Did the wallpaper on your computer change randomly and you didn't go in and set that picture of a panda bear on there? So that could mean that somebody's actually on your computer and manipulating different things. If you get pop-ups while you're browsing the internet saying they're from IT support or from Microsoft, that they found an issue with your computer, don't call the number. That number is just a scam for them to, you know, get your personal information. You know, contact your tech support if, you know, if these are kind of outside of your scope. If you don't have an antivirus installed, you know, there are some free resources. Something here locally that you guys can all take advantage of is the Microsoft store here in Baybrook Mall. This is by no means an advertisement for them. It's just, you know, showing you that resources are available for you. The Microsoft store can remove viruses from your computer for free. You go in, set up an appointment. You're there with a technician that will listen to your problems. We'll check if that program that you see on your desktop is actually malicious. I know this gentleman right here is aware of that service, so, you know, I highly encourage you, take advantage of that free resource. If it has Windows on it, they will support it for you for free.
Where are they located? I've never seen them.
So they're right across from the Apple store, or right next to Victoria's Secret. Yeah. Or if you come in through where Sears used to be, that entrance, and you walk towards the food court, you'll see them as you're coming in. But that is a resource that's available for you guys. And when you buy a computer that has Windows, you're paying for that service because those are actual Microsoft technicians. So some tips on passwords. At the moment, the recommended, you know, is 8 characters. When you set up a new email account, social media account, they recommend that you do 8-character password with 1 uppercase and 1 special character. And we'll see how and why these requirements are asked from you. So when we were looking at that screen of how many attempts it took a hacker to crack that password, those credentials, you'll see with the default credentials, it only took 72 different attempts before he was in. Here, if you go ahead and just change the password to your account to an 8-character lowercase, this will cause the hacker to have to go through 217 billion different combinations before he's able to get into your account. If we add just an uppercase letter, we'll see that that jumps up to 54 trillion different possibilities. And then into the recommended, which is 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, and 8 characters, we're looking at 669 quadrillion options. So those are crazy numbers, and we'll see how much time with previous technology, current technology, and future technology, how long it will take to crack that. So brute force attacks on average are able to enter in 1,200 attempts, so different password and username combinations. So per second. So at this rate, we're looking at 8-character lowercase. It'll take 5.5 years. And if we add an uppercase, that jumps up to 1,400 years. And of course, with the current recommended, we're looking at 17 million years before that is cracked at 1,200 attempts per second. And as IT professionals, we realize sometimes these requirements make you feel like you have to give the blood of your firstborn child. You have to, as this graphic here says, you have to enter gang signs and all this stuff. So we realize that they're requirements, but they're for your own safety. So we'll look at 8 characters. So how many options, how many different possibilities are there before that password's cracked? So we'll see we have uppercase, special characters, numbers, and lowercase characters in this password. This gives us a pretty significant number before that password should be cracked. To break down how the language is set up, we'll label this as older technology, something you would see in the 1970s. This area right here with current technology, and the last one as something you'll see in the future, not too far from now. So you'll see 8 characters at today's technology will take roughly 18 hours to crack. If we fast forward a couple years, it could be minutes before our accounts are compromised. So what can we do to protect ourselves? And basically, like we were saying earlier in the presentation, it might have to go up to 25 characters to have a password that will protect us. All 3 of these time frames far exceed any of our lifetimes. Even if we somehow are able to live a few years with new medicine, this is still a challenge to reach. And imagine if we added uppercase to this 25-character password, this number would go up even further. So this is why it's important to use uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, as well as changing your password regularly. Because if I were to change this password 90 days from now, they'd have to start all over. So they hadn't even put a dent into that number before I make them restart by simply changing my password. So, this doesn't necessarily mean we're going to this now, but just for general purpose. This is actually something that James came up with. Something to help you remember what are some good practices with your passwords. Like I said, you want to change them regularly. This basically makes a hacker restart when you change your password at those attempts. Don't leave them underneath your keyboard. Don't put them on a sticky note next to your monitor. because if anybody comes into your house and sees them, that they're compromised. Those are like the keys of your house. You want to protect them. You don't want to leave them accessible to a stranger. Don't loan them to anybody. It might be, in some situations, you might feel it's easier to give your credentials, to a friend or family member to help you with a task. But, if it's something outside your scope, use your resources like the Microsoft Store to help you out. And don't use the same pair of socks for all occasions. This goes into our next slide, which don't use the same password for all your accounts. Have a different one for your banking stuff. Have a different one for social media and for work. This basically helps prevent a single point of failure. If I left my password underneath my keyboard and the cleaning crew at work went by and checked and found my password, well, guess what? Now they have access to my banking, my Facebook, my work access. So it's important to use different password for different applications, different accounts. This overall will help your security. So some tips on how not to become a victim to social engineering out there. Basically, don't give your credentials out to anybody. You might say, hey, you just said that. We're repeating it because it's important. If somebody asks for your credentials, like on that short video we watch, don't give out hints. Don't write stuff down that's pertaining to your password. So keep an eye out for those phishing emails that demand you to click a link to protect your account from closing. Analyze those phishing emails. Who's the sender? And never include your password in an email or give it out by phone. Again, reiterating, don't give out your credentials. Here we'll analyze a little bit further URLs. A lot of us are familiar with web addresses. What we might not be fully aware of is when we visit secure sites, when we're going to enter credentials, one way to identify if a website is secure or not is in the first portion of the web address. Here we have HTTP. On banking sites, you'll notice there will be an additional S at the end of this, which stands for secure. If you don't see that S, don't enter your credentials. You'll want to be looking for that HTTPS anytime you're entering credentials or sensitive information. Additionally, another thing to look out for is the top level domain area. You want to make sure that the website, the email you're getting from is from locally. It's not overseas. It's not from Russia. So if you see anything .com, .ru, .ru.br like we saw earlier, those are red flags to look for. And some home security tips. When in doubt, whether you get mail, emails, phone calls, if something smells fishy to you, throw it out. Don't reply to those emails. Don't click those links, because chances 9 times out of 10 they're malicious. You want to create good habits as well, backing up your data locally and to the cloud. Those ransomware events that happen and that compromise your data, if you have your data backed up, separated from your computers, you have something to restore from. If it's backed up to the cloud as well, you have a secondary backup, which acts as redundancy. You'll want to run risk assessments on devices. So in my home, I have a couple smart devices, Alexa, the Nest. I have a smart security camera system as well. I put those on my password-protected guest network, separate from my personal network, which I access banking, social media, and stuff like that. The reason for this is those devices are built for features to make your life easier. They're not always built with security in mind first. So if any of those devices get compromised, they're separate from my main network, and won't be able to jump and access, my home computer, my pictures, my tax returns, which contain social security numbers, addresses, names. So that's a really good tip to do. And if this is something that you've had somebody help you set up those devices, have them come back in and ask them questions, whether is it on my main network or is it on my guest network? Is my guest network protected to where I can give those passwords to family members that come over? Make sure it's not open to the public as well. Use best practices to secure your accounts and report anything suspicious. In a few slides, we'll give you some resources to where you can report phishing, banking scams, and stuff like that. So, like I was covering earlier, to separate those devices from your personal home network, put them on that guest network. Also, make sure you maintain inventory of everything that's on your network. Certain smart TVs nowadays are coming from China and overseas companies where sometimes it's cheaper to manufacture them. They show up on your network as Linux box 1314, and you have no idea, hey, it's a Sony TV, it should show up as Sony. So if you add a device to your network and it shows up funny, investigate, is this actually my device or did somebody else connect to my network? Additionally, make sure that the device count on your network is the same as your physical count. If I have 4 cameras placed outside my home and I see 6 showing up on my network, something's off. I need to audit that and maybe change the wireless password to my Wi-Fi to drop those other devices that I don't know. Update the firmware and the software on those devices. Those updates don't necessarily, make your device slower. Those are put out by the manufacturer to patch vulnerabilities, increase stability. So with your home computer, if it's Windows-based, run those Windows updates. It seems as a minimal task, but that goes a long way in protecting you. Same thing with devices, smart devices, update those regularly. Security is not often the main focus of those. So if they find vulnerabilities, they'll patch them just so they can maintain a good reputation. So go ahead and push those updates.
So kind of rounding it up here, touching with the securing a small business, disabling terminated employees, it seems so simple. A lot of time it's overlooked. That employee could be your malicious insider that was formerly there, still has credentials to get into the network and do harm. Use principle of least privilege. What this means is, although it's easy to give everybody admin rights across the board, restrict it. Don't allow all the users to download whatever they want. Control that. Educate and test your employees. We at the city of Friendswood have invoked on a program called Know Before. We continually run campaigns, phishing emails internal to our employees, so we get stats to see who's clicking on what. We do presentations such as this. They do continued education because we want to provide as much security as possible to basically yourself, your taxpayer information. So we do education continually. Routinely change your password. And then again, a lot of the same tips as you're securing your home, do the same thing at your small business. Plan, prepare, and back up. Prevent data loss. You have natural disasters, fire, malware attacks. Do those backups. Plan for it. Just as a hurricane evacuation, your data is very valuable to you when you do get home. So as Jose mentioned, backup locally, whether it's a thumb drive, whether it's a actual hard drive, external hard drive, whatever kind of device that you want to use, make sure you're backing up locally, because if you did get hit with ransomware, you could save the money from not having to deal with them and restore your data off that backup. If you need to, and if you're so inclined, we would also, the redundancy of having backup in the cloud. If you have the ability to put your information in the cloud, secure it, that way you can actually retrieve it if your local backup and your local copy is compromised. test your backup and data plan or your backup recovery plans. If it doesn't work, it does you no good to have it there. It's like having a spare tank of gas with no gas in it. You never tested it, the generator don't work, can't use it. And then the difference between scheduled backups and manual backups. Scheduled backups are that set it and forget it. That hard drive's plugged in locally to your computer. It runs daily. You don't have to worry about it. But say there was an event going on that you want to do a manual backup because you're about to evacuate. You know that you need to. You're going to run that manually, so you back up your data and take it with you as you get out of town. What to do if you're compromised? If it's a banking compromised, contact your bank. I mean, that's you need to let them know as soon as possible something's been compromised with your information so they can start putting protective measures in place. Alert your local police department. Depending upon the issue, definitely with bank, I would report that to the PD. They can start tracking where it's happening, alerting everybody this is going on, beware. Go in and change your passwords. If you have not gone to the aspect of setting different passwords for different applications, make sure you hit all those applications that had that password. That way you're not compromised. Because what they do in a breach, they'll take that information, they put it on the dark web. Whoever buys it, or they display it for everybody to see. They're going to then take that information and attempt any other program they can get into with those same credentials. Secure your data. Again, that's what the backups. Run malware and antivirus scans after an infected device has been detected. There's plenty of different programs out there that can help do that. And if it's such a elevated issue, file a complaint with the FBI. So that is our presentation for you this evening. We want to really thank you all for staying with us.